Okay, picture this. Imagine a figure of incredible, literally godlike strength, suddenly brought to his absolute lowest point, forced to learn the agonizing, embarrassing lesson of true humility. Today, we're breaking down an epic mythological tale of fierce sibling rivalry and honestly, what happens when unchecked ego violently collides with reality. I am so excited to guide you through this explainer, because it perfectly captures how the mightiest of leaders can fail spectacularly, only to find their true worth when they finally hit rock bottom. Let's get into it.
So, what does it actually take for a god to lose his power? Well, our story kicks off in the pitch-black New Mexico desert. Imagine being out there in the dark, studying this crazy aurora borealis-type atmospheric phenomenon when out of nowhere, a massive, terrifying lightning storm develops. And that's exactly what happens to three scientists, Jane Foster, Eric Selvig, and Darcy Lewis. They're driving their research van right into the maelstrom, and bam, they accidentally hit someone. When they jump out to check on him, they find a completely powerless, disoriented man covered in dirt. But you know, this isn't just any guy. This is Thor. So how the heck did an all-powerful being end up wandering the mortal desert with zero powers?
Okay, let's dive into this. To understand how he got there, we gotta rewind a bit. Back in 900 AD, the Asgardians, led by their king Odin, fought this massive war against the frost giants of Jotunheim. Long story short, Odin wins. He takes their ultimate weapon, the Casket of Ancient Winters, and hauls it back to Asgard. Fast forward years later, and Odin is raising his two sons, Thor and Loki. He's instilling in them the heavy burden of leadership, telling them they're both worthy. But, only one can be king. Which brings us to the present day. It's supposed to be a total day of triumph. Thor is about to be formally recognized as the crown prince. But literally seconds before Odin can make it official, alarms go off. Intruders, frost giants, have actually breached Asgard's highly secure vault to steal back their ancient casket. The intruders are shut down pretty quickly by the vault's defenses, but the damage to Thor's massive pride? Yeah, that's already done.
And in the aftermath of that break-in, a highly toxic sibling dynamic is just fully exposed. On one hand, you have Thor. He's energetic, intensely eager for war, but totally blinded by an arrogant, bruised ego. He wants immediate vengeance, right? He wants to march directly into the enemy's realm and teach them a brutal lesson. But then, contrast that with Loki. He's deeply envious of his brother, sure, but he is incredibly calculating. While Thor is practically throwing a temper tantrum, Loki is quietly observing. He's playing the diplomat, but always with a hidden agenda. This is where we see the dangerous split in their leadership mentalities, impulsive wrath versus quiet, manipulative ambition.
So, driven entirely by that unchecked arrogance, Thor makes a seriously catastrophic decision. He gathers up his closest warrior friends, drags Loki along, and travels straight to the frost giant planet Jotunheim. Thor gets right in King Laufey's face. Now Loki tries to reason and de-escalate using his diplomatic approach, but Thor is not hearing it. He wants a fight, and boy does he get one. The battle spirals out of control in seconds. The Asgardians are completely surrounded by giant beasts and monsters, and they are literally only saved from certain death because Odin himself shows up. The king of Asgard tries to reinstate peace, but Loki's like, nope, we are way beyond diplomacy. So the frost giants are now officially at war with Asgard, and it's all because of Thor's reckless pride.
So the absolutely crucial point here is how Odin reacts to this monumental failure in leadership. When they get back, Odin is furious. Like absolutely livid. And Thor, who is entirely lacking in self-awareness at this point, just keeps insulting his dad. He calls him an old man and a coward for wanting peace. In response, Odin has had enough. He declares Thor completely unfit to be king. He strips his son of all his godly power, banishes him to earth, and hurls his mighty hammer, Mjolnir, right after him. But as he throws it, Odin places a really profound enchantment on the weapon. He says, "Whosoever wields his hammer and is worthy of it shall have the power of Thor."
Now that he's immortal, Thor is forced to experience human frailty for the very first time, and guys, it is a complete disaster. Jane and her team rush him to a local hospital where he wakes up in a total panic. He realizes his weapon is gone and literally tries to fight his way out, only to be easily taken down by, ordinary hospital staff. Then, when he finally does escape, Jane accidentally hits him with her van, again, for a second time. To blend in, this former literal god is forced to borrow some civilian clothes that belonged to Jane's ex-boyfriend. He is just totally out of his element, grounded, and intensely confused by this bizarre new reality.
But Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, didn't just vanish into thin air. It crash-landed about 50 miles away. The locals find it sitting in the middle of this massive crater and they treat it like a tailgate party. They're literally hooking it up to pickup trucks trying to rip it out of the ground, and obviously nobody can budge it even a single inch. But suddenly, ancient mythology collides with modern bureaucracy. A secretive government organization called SHIELD steps in. Led by Agent Phil Coulson, they completely lock down the crater with armed guards, scientific tents, the whole shebang. Coulson even shows up at Jane Foster's house and abruptly confiscates all of her lifelong atmospheric research because he knows it's intrinsically connected to this mysterious event.
Hearing rumors about the crash site, Thor makes his way out there under the cover of darkness. He systematically fights his way through all these highly trained SHIELD agents, pushing himself to his absolute mortal limits just to reach the center of that crater. And there it is. He finally sees Mjolnir. He grabs the handle, fully expecting his glorious, godlike power to surge right back into him. He pulls, and nothing happens. He tries again, straining with literally all his might, but the hammer won't even wiggle. And then the realization hits him. His ego has stripped him of his worth. Crushed, Thor just howls in despair. He slumps to the ground and offers zero resistance as SHIELD agents surround and capture him.
At this exact moment, the contrast between the two brothers reaches its absolute peak. Thor is sitting in a SHIELD interrogation room entirely broken, and to make matters worse, Loki suddenly appears to him as an illusion. He manipulates his incredibly vulnerable brother by just straight up lying to him. Loki claims that the stress of the banishment actually killed their father, Odin, and that Thor can never, ever return home. Thor is utterly heartbroken. But meanwhile, back on Asgard, Loki has made a shocking discovery of his own. He isn't an Asgardian at all. He's actually a frost giant infant that Odin took after that ancient war. So with Odin falling into a deep comatose state known as the Odin sleep, Loki seizes the opportunity. He steps up and takes the throne of Asgard as acting king.
Back down on Earth, Erik Selvig manages to fake some documents and actually gets Thor released from SHIELD custody. Later that night, Thor and Jane sit around a bonfire, and we get this really beautiful, quiet moment of connection. Thor takes Jane's notebook and literally draws out a map of the universe for her. He explains the structure of the 9 realms, including Asgard, Jotunheim, and Midgard, which is what they call Earth. He also explains the Bifrost, this magical bridge connecting them all. Now, looking at the science of it, Jane realizes the Bifrost is actually a theoretical Einstein-Rosen bridge, a wormhole. In this moment, Thor is finally starting to see the value in humanity. He's learning that true leadership isn't just about ruling from high above, it's about connecting with the very people you aim to protect.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that we see this isn't just a sibling rivalry anymore. It is a methodical, calculated coup. Step 1. Loki uses the Frost Giant's power casket to magically freeze Heimdall, the all-seeing guardian of Asgard's bridge. Step 2. He sneaks into Jotunheim and makes a really treacherous deal with King Leify. He promises to sneak Leify into Asgard to assassinate the sleeping Odin. And Step 3. Knowing that Thor's friends have figured out his treachery and headed to Earth to warn Thor, Loki sends a massive, totally unstoppable robotic weapon known as the Destroyer down to Earth to eliminate his brother once and for all.
And let me tell you, the arrival of the Destroyer is absolutely terrifying. It drops into this small New Mexico town and just immediately starts blasting everything in sight with a massive, fiery heat ray. Cars are exploding, buildings are crumbling, innocent locals are fleeing in total panic. Thor's past arrogance has literally followed him to Earth in the form of this unstoppable Asgardian death machine. Thor, Jane, and the other scientists are scrambling to get people out of the line of fire. But it becomes super clear, really fast, that conventional weapons and human speed are completely useless against this thing.
Realizing that running is futile, and knowing his new friends are going to die because of a war he started, Thor does the unthinkable. At least unthinkable for the arrogant prince we met at the beginning of the story. He steps out directly in front of this towering robot. He speaks to Loki, knowing full well his brother is watching from Asgard, and he begs him to spare the innocent humans. In exchange, Thor freely offers his own life. And the Destroyer? It responds with a vicious, unyielding backhand slap that sends Thor's mortal body tumbling across the dirt. Jane runs over to him in tears as he lies there, seemingly dead. But wait, remember that enchantment Odin put on the hammer? This right here is the ultimate lesson of the story. True power isn't granted by birthright, and it certainly isn't taken by force. It is earned through selflessness and humility. This moment of ultimate sacrifice, literally giving his life to protect beings he used to consider completely beneath him, is the catalyst. Because of this single act, he is instantly deemed worthy.
Miles away in that shield crater, Mjolnir frees itself. It launches into the sky and rockets directly into Thor's hand. In a massive flash of lightning, his wounds heal, his godly vigor returns, and his iconic armor and red cape are fully restored. With a single devastating strike, he easily neutralizes the destroyer. Thor says a quick goodbye to Jane, promising he'll return, and rockets back to Asgard just in the nick of time. But hey, remember Loki's deal with Laufey? Yeah, well, it was a total double cross. Just as Laufey is about to kill Odin, Loki spins around and kills Laufey. He's trying to make himself look like the hero who saved the king. But Loki's true, horrific plan is to use the massive raw energy of the Bifrost portal to completely obliterate the ice planet of Jotunheim. He literally wants to commit genocide against the Frost Giants just to prove to Odin that he is a worthy son. Thor arrives, completely rejecting his brother's absolute madness, and the two engage in this brutal, high-stakes combat. To stop the destruction of Jotunheim, Thor realizes there is really only one option, and it's incredibly tragic. He has to destroy the very bridge connecting Asgard to the rest of the universe, which means he'll be cutting himself off from Earth and from Jane. But he doesn't even hesitate. He swings Mjolnir, smashing away at the bridge until the Bifrost completely shatters. The incredible explosive force of it sends both brothers tumbling out into the starry abyss of space. Suddenly, Odin, who has finally awoken from his sleep, catches Thor, who in turn grabs onto Loki's staff. But when Loki looks up at Odin and realizes his father still rejects his genocidal actions, craving that final shred of validation he is never going to get, Loki just lets go. He admits defeat and willingly falls backward into the dark abyss. So Thor's journey has come completely full circle. He started out as this arrogant, war-hungry prince who nearly destroyed his entire realm out of sheer pride. But now, he's transformed into a humble protector. When the dust finally settles on Asgard, Odin approaches Thor and tells him he's finally ready to be named Crown Prince. But, surprise, Thor declines. He looks right at his father and admits that he still has a lot to learn, and that he just isn't ready to rule yet. Honestly, it is the ultimate sign of wisdom from a god who literally had to lose everything just to find himself.
But you know, in a universe this vast, the story is never truly over. Down on Earth, Eric Selvig is taken to a highly secret S.H.I.E.L.D. facility where he meets the director, Nick Fury. Fury opens up this mysterious briefcase to reveal an object that is just pulsing with energy, and he claims it could be a source of unlimited power. But as Selvig looks at it, the camera reveals something super terrifying. An invisible Loki has somehow survived the abyss, and he is secretly watching, actually manipulating Selvig's very words. It leaves us with a massive cliffhanger. I mean, what happens when a desperate, hidden trickster god finds a source of limitless earthly power? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes open for what comes next.